Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. I'm doing Space Docker in PSVR 2 again. This is just a nice relaxed level here, and I wanted to do it as part of another little Docker chat. I wanted to discuss the video game crash of 1983 and whether or not we're heading to another one in this modern day, because it's not looking too rosy out there right now. And a lot of people are saying, oh my God, are we headed for another crash? I don't think so. But it was interesting for me to have lived through the crash of 83 and put my 2 cents on it. Ooh, I'm coming at this all wrong. Let's just, okay, let's go around here. And we got to drop it in there. So for those who don't know, I'm just trying to line up my stuff here. For those who don't know, the arcade scene was awesome back in the early 80s. Just get myself lined up a little bit better here, sorry. And, well, it's saying I'm still green. Let's give that a whirl. Can I do it? Can I do it? Yes, all right. So yeah, for the 80s scene, you know, you watch anything about how the video games were, the arcades, all that kind of good stuff. Things were doing great. And in the home market, you had Atari, but it was starting to, I don't know, make a few missteps, have a few problems. Pac-Man was not well received. E.T. was really not doing too good. So Atari was losing business and making some ridiculous, they had a lot of hubris back then of like, oh yeah, we are the video game scene. We created this landscape. It's going to go great. We can rest assured we know what we're talking about. And it didn't go well for Atari. And I remember for the arcades, ooh, how am I going to get that one out? Ooh, it's going to be real tricky. Okay. In the arcade scene, I remember it was getting to that point where it's like, there used to be so many more interesting games with ingenuity and excitement. Why don't I want to play any of this stuff now? How come the arcades are kind of quiet? I remember there was one arcade that was in the nearby mall, and it just it wasn't doing it for me anymore. I had an Atari 2600, but at this point, I was a little bit losing interest, if you will. I had ooh, there we go. We had a home computer, like an Apple machine. I talked about this when I put away my PSVR 1, when I was sad to leave a console generation. I did discuss, we had an Apple-type computer. Oh, there's a spinning one over there. We had an Apple-type computer, and it was sort of what I used for my gaming purposes. I wasn't going to be playing on the Atari anymore. Yeah, let me get this guy lined up. Go. I guess I'll go get that spinner. And so for those who were around back in that time, we were becoming aware of like this thing that we loved didn't have the pull it used to have. I don't think that's the case today. So today we've got some major layoffs going on with video games. You know, huge, big corporations, Ubisoft and the rest of them, are all letting go of people. And it's got a lot of folks who are sort of watching all of this stuff concerned. It's like, are we about to lose the video game industry again? Hang on, I got to shoot this thing with little lippets to slow it down. Let me just get closer here. Let's just get that guy to slow down a little bit. Is that him? One more. And maybe another one? Yes, he needs another one. There we go. Now he's stopped. Yeah, I've heard a few people discuss how, like, the number of layoffs that have occurred just this year are close to, if not more than, all of the layoffs for all of last year. Like, it's looking pretty dire out there for people who make video games, and I'm sad for those folks. Ooh. It's not like we haven't been here before. I actually did a video response years ago to the immortal John Hancock. He actually talked about how why are there things changing around, and how come we can't, why are places like GameStop closing down and that kind of thing? We got to get out there and support the industry, etc., etc., etc. And I was, in my video response, I was like, yeah, great. I'd like to go play pinball in an arcade. Oh, that was a industry that died off. Like, it happens, this is the natural order of business. And I think we've kind of got a little bit of that going on now, where it's sort of, I don't know, we're hitting, I don't know if video games have hit saturation or something, or some experts have talked about, both Richard Review Tech and also Pat the NES Punk have done pretty good deep dives on this. I recommend their videos, where they say, it's a different landscape now than it was in the 80s. Back in the 80s, there was a lot of disinterest in video games. That hasn't gone away. We have not lost the interest that we had. Oh, there's the last one. We have not lost the interest that we had back then. There is a huge amount of passion for video games that back in 83 or so, admittedly, it was it was viewed as a fad. We thought, oh yeah, these are like pet rocks. These are a thing that people are hula hoops. We tried this thing out. It was all a bit of a laugh. And it's just silly game stuff. I mean, Atari themselves stopped calling, when they were releasing the 8-bit computer line, they were saying, yeah, no, this isn't for gaming. This is for home computing and simulation and stuff. We are not doing games anymore. Last one. Ka-chunk. Is that my ship over there? Oh, that's my ship over there. Okay. So the gaming landscape changed back then. Is it changing again now? Not entirely. It's not the same beast. But for me, I thought I'd just put in a couple of cents worth of my perspective. Come on, get it lined up. Because I lived it. I was there. I walked into my favorite arcade of the day and was sad that, like, I couldn't play a ton of games. The classics, the Pac-Mans and Galagas and all that stuff had been rolled out, and very generic rip-offs of stuff we've seen on other titles were there, and they all wanted 50 cents, if not $1. And it was like, this is putting the taint on it. I don't really want to do this. Let's see if I can, does this make the little side door open? It should do. Where's the side door? There's the side door. And then we'll dock. And then we're done. So I'm going to actually take my time here because I want to finish my discussion. Yeah, it's a different landscape now than back then. And the video game scene, especially the arcades, for those of us who lived through that time, it felt more like, okay, this is just something that happens. A little bit like going to a hobby store, or I'm trying to think of another example of something you don't really see anymore in a mall. What happened to, movie theaters, I guess, are today's example, aren't they? Those are kind of suffering, not doing too well, and I gotta get this all lined up here. Now, I'm sure the people who were in the arcade back then were probably the people running it. Ka-chunk. Yay! Well, it did okay. Let me just close that menu there because I know you can't see me when I have that up there. Yeah, I wanted to maybe have a very quick. I'm doing little discussion, little opinion pieces, editorials, if you will, while in Space Stalker because it's a nice chill game, and it's something leading toward another thing I want to do. But I wanted to just touch base on the crash of '83. For those of us who were around at that time, it was the end of one particular era, and something new was coming along. Home computing was where a lot of that stuff moved to. Now, IGN used to have a podcast called Retrocity, and the host of that years ago did a whole thing about, the crash of '83 is actually a bit of a myth. Games like Gauntlet and a number of other big titles were coming out in the arcades. There was still life in the arcades. But it does seem to be a thing that a lot of people now kind of use as a touchstone of like, look, arcades, video games, all that stuff, there was a time when the popularity waned. It fell off, and we might be going toward that now. Not true. The video game desire, the video game market, the people who like playing video games today are still there, and they still want to play. It's the business side of things. The big corporations bit off more than they can chew. I think Pat Contreat said that during the pandemic, a lot of these companies really, really expanded their staff levels and a lot of their projects because they thought, okay, people are at home, we need to provide lots of games. And now we're seeing, as the pandemic's passed and we're all out and about again, those sales are not there. I would also argue maybe that the types of games that we can play are kind of getting very focused. This games as a service thing, it's something that people are trying to push to us and we don't want them. I don't want to play Fortnite, and yet it's got a huge following, and all of the big companies are chasing that particular unicorn, trying to get that to happen again, trying to capture lightning in a bottle. And they're not making a lot of diverse games. Now, the indie scene is coming down with stuff. PSVR 2 is a very good example. I'm playing piles of stuff that is unique and interesting, and I enjoy playing it, like Space Stalker. This is great. This is awesome. The landscape has changed from the point of view of big business. And that's where we're seeing all these layoffs occur. PSVR 2, there's all this talk about how Sony has closed London Studios, the guys who made the London Heist, I think it was. And everybody's saying, see, look, PSVR 2 is dying. They're not going to make any more games. Those studios weren't even making anything for PSVR 2. So that's a false equivalency. Just because a studio that made VR games is shut down doesn't mean that they were working on VR games. However, the big trend is, yes, this is a bad sign that all these people are losing their jobs. That sucks. Just like it sucks that I can't go into an arcade and play a pinball machine. I mean, there are pinball machines in movie theaters and stuff like that. There are modern, what do I want to call it? Representations or kind of cameos, if you will, of pinball machines. But back in the 80s, when I could go into a building that was designed as an arcade that had a row of pinball machines and a Pac-Man and Space Invaders and stuff behind me, those days are gone. That went away because that part of the industry changed. It moved to the home computer market. Then things like the NES came along, and we were suddenly able to play deeper games, so the arcade scene died. That's just part of the natural evolution. There's too many people drawing a comparison today with, oh no, studios are closing, we're headed to another crash, video games are going to go away again. No, they're not. They're not. Especially smaller, like casual games and mobile stuff. The mobile scene is huge, although I don't think there's a lot of big companies making big money anymore. I think like King, the people who make Candy Crush, yeah, they've got piles of cash rolling in. They're doing really, really well. But for every one of those, I'm sure 1,000 little startups who think, oh, we're going to make the next Candy Crush. They come along, they have to give it away for free, and it just doesn't doesn't do well for them. I think that's what we've got going on in the gaming landscape. I think the big AAA, huge experiences, Sony, Microsoft, Ubisoft, all these different companies, even Nintendo to a degree, they all thought, okay, this is what works. This is what people are wanting, Fortnite, etc. Games as a service. So we're going to throw tons of money at it. And then people don't go for it because we've got 1 million of these already. We're not interested. And the market goes in a direction they didn't predict. So now they shut that down. They close those studios. They lay off all those people, which sucks. Don't get me wrong. I'm very upset that people are losing their jobs. But it isn't that the gaming world is moving toward another crash. It's not going to happen. I'm very sad that, again, my analogy of playing a pinball machine in an arcade isn't possible. But I learned that that's part of the ever-changing evolution of this particular market that I quite enjoy, this hobby that I have, this gaming scene. It goes through these waves. It goes through these changes. That's part of the landscape. What we're seeing happening right now on a big scale in the gaming industry is the same thing. It's going away. It's going through a shift. It's going through another change, just like it did back in '83 when all the arcades were closing off and Atari was going out of business and ColecoVision had to stop making ColecoVision games. That whole thing happened, but what we've got now is different. I don't know if I'm rambling too much at this point. Thought I'd give this a whirl. I want to do more little chit-chat conversational things while in Space Stalker, and I hope somebody enjoys this. I don't know. I like making it. I'm going to stop now, though, because I am kind of repeating the same thing I've been saying. So, stopping there. Until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.